big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. This new year, get clean, quality, pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list, including Ritual's best-selling Essential Prenatal Multivitamin, designed with 12 traceable key ingredients to support a healthy pregnancy. With big changes coming up, take the small steps now and start today with 30% off a 3-month supply at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. But for those who are tuning in around the world to the best late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
Into the silo.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 4th of May, 2016. You're listening to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. All of you who were just listening to the exceptional one, Ken McClinton, thank you so much for coming over. And I'm going to, in a few minutes, I'm going to tell everyone about just an awesome tribute to Ken's daughter, Sharnice, that occurred. And it's just touching and amazing, and a fitting tribute to an exceptional young lady. This evening, Clint is off. He's on a secret mission, and I'm not going to say it has something to do with trying transgender bathrooms, but I'm not going to shy away from that as well. So use your own imagination. But fortunately, I was able to dig up the second best newsman in the business to sit in for Sackhead Clint this evening. And of course, I'm speaking of Dan Butcher from High Plains Pundit. Dan, thank you so much, sir.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be back. It's nice to know I'm wanted when you can only dig, when you can't find anybody else to dig up. So anyway, I'm here tonight. And if you hear somebody in the background, Sean got a taste of that earlier. It's my youngest son who's wandering in and out because he likes to listen when Dad's on the radio. So if you hear him butt in a few times, that's who that is tonight.
Awesome. It's actually good to know, and one of the things that I love about you, Danny, is it's a total family affair. Obviously, your eldest daughter is becoming very much a part of High Plains Pundit, and news and politics in the country and the well-being of the country are a major part of your family. I just think that's amazing. I salute you for that.
Yeah, and actually, my oldest son now is taking part. He is actually doing all the video editing for High Plains.
Oh, Lord!
TV. All of the videos and stuff that you see over there, that is his thing, and he takes care. He actually goes and picks all of the videos and sorts through them and posts them, and he's doing a really good job so far. So really looking for very talented. He's far more technically advanced than I am when it comes to audio and video. He really does a great job, and so really looking forward to seeing what all the neat things he comes up with over the next few days. So yeah, it is. We are truly a family affair from me and Jane to our kids, and we like it that way. What else can you say? A family that talks politics together. Well, sometimes they end up shooting one another. In our case, we actually enjoy one another.
I was going to say Hatfield, McCoy, something. I was thinking
exactly.
thinking something. I couldn't know it. Well, I appreciate you being here. I know you've been on a technical hiatus, and yes. I appreciate you stepping out for all of us here at SHR Media and stepping up. And a lot of people are starting to catch wind, but you and I and Ken and underground professor and some other folks are going to be together real soon here in Texas just next week. And I'm looking forward to that. You want to tell everyone what's going on?
Well, next week we will be reporting and broadcasting live from the Texas GOP State Convention. Of course, this is the largest GOP state convention in the country. It's the largest gathering of Republicans that takes place in the country, even a larger gathering than what you will see at the national convention. And the Texas convention is always the last state convention before the national convention. And what happens in Texas usually sets the agenda for what's going to happen at the national. And we got some interesting things that are going to be happening here. And you and I have talked about this. You know, this bathroom thing has just completely blown up and taken on a life of its own. It's become a centerpiece. Who would think that at the end of 8 years of Barack Obama, it's come down to people don't know what damn bathroom to use now, and it's become just this ridiculous part. But yeah, it's very serious, and that's going to be something that's going to be very interesting. That's going to be addressed at the state convention. For the very first time at the state convention here in Texas, we do have the Log Cabin Republicans. Of course, they are a Republican homosexual group, activist group. They will have a booth at that, and that goes completely against what the GOP Texas platform stands for when it comes to homosexuality and gay marriage and that. So that's going to be an interesting situation that's going to develop. And we're also anticipating that let's face it, this convention for the last few years has taken place in very Republican-friendly Tarrant County in Fort Worth, Texas, and now they've moved to what would be the second bluest part in the state of Texas, which is Dallas County and downtown Dallas proper.
Yes.
And so we're going right into the lair of the beast, so to speak. So we're anticipating that we're anticipating, and you and I have talked about this in Ken. You know, we're anticipating that we're going to see some very interesting things. We think we're also going to see some protest.
Yes.
You certainly saw the protest that took place last week at the California GOP convention, and that was a little bit different because Trump was speaking and Ted Cruz was speaking. Ted Cruz will be speaking next week and we have you and I will have a story about Ted Cruz here in a few minutes involving Donald Trump, and it also involves John Kasich as well. Moving forward in this primary process.
Right.
But we're anticipating that this is going to be kind of their trial, all these protests.
Big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. This new year, get clean, quality, pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list, including Ritual's best-selling Essential Prenatal Multivitamin, designed with 12 traceable key ingredients to support a healthy pregnancy. With big changes coming up, take the small steps now and start today with 30% off a 3-month supply at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Hey there. Ritual here to give a big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. The magic of those family moments, that was you. And now there's new milestones to prep for in 2025. This new year, check clean, quality, pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list with Ritual. We've done the research to create science-backed pregnancy support like our prenatal multivitamin, natal choline, and fertility support, all designed to be taken alongside each other. But don't just take our word for it. They're also third-party tested for microbes and heavy metals and Clean Label Project certified. So whether you're trying, thinking about trying, or already there, we don't have to tell you that prioritizing yourself can be the hardest part. That's why we're helping you get started today with 30% off a 3-month supply for a limited time at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
There's all these radical morons, and even some of the more violent groups, that they're going to come down and try some of their tactics in Texas, because obviously Texas is a target state for the Democrats
yes.
to try to turn blue, and for the Republicans to defend to keep it red. So the fact this is taking place in Dallas in a Democrat stronghold really opens up for a lot of possibilities. So
Yeah, no,
folks, you're not going to want to miss any of this at all.
Yeah, it definitely is an interesting, what's the word I'm looking for? Exchange is going to be the best way to put it. It's going to be an interesting exchange as to exactly how
Yes, it
everything
is.
goes down. And I'll tell you what, it's oh yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, to say the very,
Yes, it
very
is.
least.
And what I'm looking forward, Ken, is a lot of people don't know how the convention process actually works, and they don't usually get a lot of behind the scenes stuff of the nitty gritty. Which it sounds pretty boring, but it's really not. Especially when you get to the different floor fights over platforms and what's going to be the platform of the party moving
Right.
forward. And that's what I try to do when we're reporting this. We'll be talking to a lot of state lawmakers, national. We'll be talking. We will be interviewing the Senator Cornyn. We hope we can get to Ted Cruz. That's kind of open at the moment. We hope to get Greg Abbott as well, who is the governor here in the state of Texas. So really looking forward to it all. Like I said, I think people will find it very informative, very interesting, and I think they'll also be watching to see if we get thrown in jail. Sean. Being in the middle of all this.
Yeah, I don't. Well, like I said, I'm just there to cover it as a reporter. I'm not there to.
Well, let me tell you though, you're probably very aware that sometimes when you got a lot of stuff going down, they just start taking people in and ask questions later.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get caught up and become part of the story, and that's just the nature of the beast of the business when you're trying to cover this type of stuff. So, guys, be ready. We're doing this for the readers and the listeners.
Well, and you know what?
sacrifice we
I
make.
made the mistake, Ken. Dan. I sent a shirt a little bit early to Ken, and he opened it before I was ready for him to. But he says he's not going to wear it, and the shirt itself says "White Lives Don't Matter." So I'm kind of. I was a little bit early.
I have sent him. I've got some Dallas Cowboys gear for Ken to wear because I know, living in Washington D.C., that he is a big Dallas Cowboys fan.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm going to make sure that he's got a big Dallas Cowboys baseball hat with a big Texas star on it, and I'm going to get him a Tony Romo jersey. And so we're going to make Ken feel right at home here in the Lone Star State.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, and that was one of his biggest concerns which was the funniest part. So we had this conference call to set all this up last week, and out of everything, and Dan's like, "Oh, we have to watch out for this, and there could be protests." But over and over and over again, Ken I don't have to go to Cowboy Stadium, right? Can I wear my Chiefs gear? Can I do this? Can I do that? Or Skins gear, not Chiefs
Yeah, what
skins.
Redskins.
Yeah, I was that's all the concern was. Oh man.
Oh man. I'll tell Kid, you wear your Redskins jersey and baseball hat at your own peril.
Go
All
Sox,
I got
baby.
to say for Ken is the Cowboys had a much better draft than the Redskins did. So that'll pretty well end that discussion.
Well, I think this is a news show that you two should embark on.
Yeah,
All right, so
exactly.
I wanted to get out of the
People,
way.
I want to give a disclaimer here. I'm fixing to walk into something that I don't know.
Oh,
He's fixing to
yeah.
blindside me with something. And people know that Sean and I have a long relationship going back and forth, teasing each other off the air, messing with each other off the air.
On the
And
air,
so
too.
Sean is setting me up for something here.
Yes, I am. Dan, I know you've been away from electronics all day, so I'm going to spring this
Yes.
on you. I hope you haven't seen it. The biggest news of the week took place yesterday, as you know. And it took over social media. It was everywhere. Everyone knew what happened yesterday. It was no surprise. But I want to tell you, Caitlyn Bruce Jenner
Oh, I know. Here we go.
will be
I know
posing
what this is.
nude in nothing but her medals and his flag on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Your response, Dan Butcher.
You know what? I think they should go even further with this. I mean, if Sports Illustrated is going to be breaking the mold, and we're going to have the first transgender person posing nude on the cover, you know what? I think that issue that they put out every year of all the nude athletes.
Yes.
I think they need to go further. I think that Caitlyn Jenner needs to pose for that special magazine that they put out each year, and see what kind of reaction. I think if Caitlyn was to pose for that, they might find that Caitlyn is really still Bruce,
Yes.
with boobs.
Right.
So, anyway,
More of a
that's kinda
Brucey
where we're
than a
at.
Caitlyn.
Yeah. You know what? It is sad, and this is going to be. We're making light of this, but let me say this is very sad as to what Sports Illustrated has, as to what Sports Illustrated has become, as to what ESPN has become with all of the political correctness.
Yes.
You look at what's happening. You have people being fired for speaking the truths and speaking their minds, and it's you're to the point where you cannot, if you're not politically correct, you could lose your job. And now you see what we're starting to see carry over into sports. You have the NBA threatening to pull the All-Star game from North Carolina. You're
Yes.
seeing the boycott of all the concerts. Over what? Because we're having an argument over what bathroom somebody should be using? You know what? It's very simple. You use
Big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. This new year, get clean, quality pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list, including Ritual's best-selling Essential Prenatal Multivitamin, designed with 12 traceable key ingredients to support a healthy pregnancy. With big changes coming up, take the small steps now and start today with 30% off a 3-month supply at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Taxes was waiting around for your taxes to be done, which led to worrying about not getting any money back. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes in a day to get you up to $4,000 fast with a refund advance loan. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Expert filing only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Refund advance has $0 loan fees and 0% APR. Refund advance loans may be issued by First Century Bank, N.A. or WebBank. Terms apply. Subject to approval.
the bathroom with whatever that coordinates with whatever equipment that God blessed you with when you were born. And then if you choose to mutilate yourself at said point and actually go through with that, then we might can have a separate discussion. And and Sean, I'll even make this argument that transgender people are not even really homosexuals. They're not really gay. Because here's what's happening. They are going through a process to make themselves become a male or female, and then what happens when they become female? Well, they're no longer gay because they're attracted to males. The same thing for males or for females that become male. They go through that full process. So my argument is, why should gay rights even apply to these people to begin with? If you go through that process, you have become a male or female in every sense of the word legally, so those rights no longer apply to you. You're no longer one of that 3%.
It's our own version of the crying game.
Exactly.
I'm just concerned as to where he's going to be hanging the medals from. That's my biggest worry.
Yeah.
Shall I go on?
let me ask you this.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Can the Olympic Committee take away
Yes.
those medals?
Yes.
Technically, since,
They won't.
he earned, since he's become a female, he earned them as a male. Those were supposedly medals in a male athletic event. Can they?
Right.
Are those really still his medals anymore?
Well, I
yes,
think
they were Bruce Jenner's, but Caitlyn Jenner has become a freak among society, in my opinion.
I think that they will let him maintain it. And only because, and I don't know what I did here. I don't know what I did. I did something. And they're only because he was Bruce at the time that
Right.
the medals were won. I listen. This is just.
Sean, it boggles the mind. It just, how did we, just think. 1 year ago, we had the battle over gay marriage in the Supreme Court.
Yes.
1 year ago. Okay? That victory was won, and we moved forward from that. Well, where have we moved forward from? We have moved forward from gay marriage, which, and a lot of people will blow up in the chat room at me, but I am a firm supporter of gay rights. Always have been, always will be. Now, with that said, I draw the lines at certain things. I was always a civil union person. I thought that if we had gone the civil union route many, many years ago, we would not be having this debate that we had over gay marriage. It would have been settled way back then. And now what has happened? We have progressed further from the gay marriage issue now to this massive transgender issue over which bathroom somebody is going to use. And now we've moved into transracial. You can now identify with whatever race you want to.
Hey.
You can be a trans animal if you want to. Sean, I want to identify, as a weasel.
Well,
but I think some of our politicians should actually identify as that.
Well, yeah, I was going to say.
But see, you see where we're moving forward to this. You have the folks from Sister Wives are now going back to challenge, so to make polygamy legal. They're saying if gay marriage is legal, polygamy should be legal. You should be able to marry whoever you want, whatever inanimate object you want,
Yep.
whatever make-believe friend you want, whatever imaginary personality. You can. They want to go as far as to you can marry, all of the personalities running around in your head if you're schizophrenic. But I make that point is we're going into uncharted territory in our country that's a downward spiral. And, we have to draw the line somewhere. And I've always drawn the line on this transgender issue. I don't have a problem with the gay rights issue per se, and I'm a full supporter of that. But I draw the line at the transgender thing. I think that is something where if people are willing to mutilate themselves and go against the way that God created them, there's something wrong there. And even the true the gay people in the world, they look at a lot of these transgender people and shake their heads going, you guys are nuts,
Yeah.
and
Well,
they are, and they are, and you move forward from that, and now it's just opened up this wide open door of just decadence, immorality that we're starting to see pour into our society, and this is what happens with progressivism. And guys, this bathroom thing is just the next step in the ultimate holy grail of the radical gay rights activists, and that is to make the churches recognize homosexuality and
attack the first.
as being born that way instead of a lifestyle, and also accepting, once again, if you want to dress up like a panda, strap a bomb to yourself, you know what? There must have been a reason that society made that person do that. Which we recently saw.
Yeah,
it's always society's fault that drives people to do this, and you have that right. And I'm all for individuality, expressing yourself. But guys, this goes to a whole new level of freakiness, immorality, and stuff that people are just not right in the heads. And if you're a transgender person and you want to call into the show tonight, please direct that call to Sean Lewis, care of Sackheads Radio. But in all seriousness, I'm happy to have that debate with you. I really, really am.
You know what? Just because I'm a good sport for this, and I'll be happy to mediate because I get a kick out of this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'll put out the call-in line 916-282-9806, 916-282-9806. The other
call in, I'm ready for you.
The other strange thing is it's funny how the sports world is going out of its way to all of a sudden embrace the transgender thing. I mean, look at ESPN attacking Curt Schilling over a personal belief, and if anyone who doesn't realize, Curt Schilling's a very spiritual, conservative guy, firing him, and now Sports Illustrated with this whole Caitlyn Jenner, obviously ESPN last year giving her the female athlete of the year, even though it's a dude. Listen, I'm with you in a lot of it. I don't care what two grown people do behind closed doors in their house. It's nobody else's business. As long as everyone's involved is okay with it, it's not for me to judge. I really believe that. I kind of put it back to only God can judge. Like, hey, they're not committing a crime, so it's not up to society to judge per se. But at the end of the day, when you're marching out and you were Bruce Jenner, and all of a sudden you have a set of knockers and you're on TV, and they're showing videos of you used to be a guy, and all of a sudden you're a female, and my kid looks at me and goes, well, what's that all about?
Exactly.
I have to fake a stroke and fall onto the floor and have the medics come and take me away just to get out answering the question. Because what do you say to a 5-year-old? What do you say to a 5-year-old? Oh, well, he had boobs put on. He's going to cut off his penis and become a woman. Well, why? Oh, shit. Why didn't you ask me the formula for cold fusion? I had a better shot at it than I have one now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why. I can't explain why, but we are so in everybody else's face right now with our personal business, and look how great I am, and blah, 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 that we are losing the respect of people to their own privacy. And I mean this, listen, I've said this before. It disgusts me when I go to a restaurant with my family and there's heterosexual couples that are practically making love at the table while I'm trying to eat dinner. It disgusts me because it's public decency. You're supposed to act a certain way in public, and you're supposed to be respectful of the people around you. And we've lost that by and large in this nation. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
And Sean, let me throw this out at you, and let me
30 seconds.
Let me tell you just how. Okay, well, let's do the break first, and then I'll come back with this, because you surprised me and wanted my reaction on something. I'm going to get your reaction on something. In case people can't notice this tonight, Sean and I are just kind of freestyling tonight, trying to get a rise out of one another and a reaction. And so I have a feeling I'm going to get a very good one out of Sean when we come back after the break, guys.
Back with the editor-in-chief of High Plains Pundit, Dan Butcher, right here on the Sackheads Radio Show. Stick around. We will be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying calf for the stupid bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on SHRmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver Common Sense Show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com and HighPlainsDailyNews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. I really appreciate your time with us this evening. Dan Butcher, the amazing editor-in-chief of High Plains Pundit, is filling in for Sackhead Clint, who is on special assignment. And by special assignment, I mean I don't know where the hell he is. You know, so... It was really funny at the break. I got a couple text messages from people. And Dan, I don't know as a host, like, I always get crap during my day-to-day life for not being able to multitask. And right. you can attest to this. Once I'm doing one thing, I don't really have a tendency to stray too far at that point. It takes me a while to get my brain going around it because I get task-focused. But when I'm on the show, once a week, I think, is when I burn out all of my multitasking ability, and here's why. I have the Google Hangouts, the live stream going. There's a chat over there. There's not much going on there because nobody knows it's there. We haven't really pushed it, but I still have to go back and forth and check it. I have our chat at shrmedia.com. Click live chat. You can listen to the show and then chat as well. I'm answering texts. I'm answering Facebook messages. I'm also trying to run the board. You know, I burn it all out in the 2 hours that I sit here.
Right.
And now everybody thinks that I've locked Clint in the bunker with Sacco, and then I have them both secured somewhere. I want to know when I became the jerk on this show.
Well, ever since you became the, everybody knows you're a racist, and you're always, throwing, you're always throwing Ken under the bus.
Every
when
chance
it comes
I get.
to stuff. Every chance you get.
Every chance I get.
Well, and I'll be honest, tonight I'm sitting here, as I often do if I'm, even when I'm a guest on somebody's show or giving interviews or something like that, I'm usually doing something. I've been away all day, so I'm getting caught up writing articles and starting to post stuff, and that's where I'm coming across, some other stuff for tonight's show, that we'll talk about, and I'm just kind of following Sean's lead tonight, so this will be all getting reactions from Dan most of the night tonight. But I want to turn the tables on you for a minute here,
okay.
And I want to continue our discussion because I think this is very important, and with what is happening in our society. And Sean, you're a big Boston Red Sox fan, and
yes.
and you're very familiar with the 2004 American League Championship Series when the Red Sox were down 3-0 to the Yankees, and then came back to win that series 4-3.
Agador and I bet you if we watch those replays, you'll see Agador and I both shedding tears.
Exactly.
And I'm the first one to admit I cried.
What is the most defining visual moment
Bloody
of that
sock.
series, Sean?
Bloody sock, Curt Schilling.
You got it. It got it. So here's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
ESPN,
Yes.
I want to get your reaction to this. This is how petty this has become. ESPN did a documentary recently called 4 Days in October.
Yes.
And 16 minutes of that documentary focused around the bloody sock and Curt Schilling's amazing performance for that.
Yes.
And just to let you know, just to remind everybody, he was pitching at Yankee Stadium, and the Red Sox had not won a World Series for 86 years up to that point.
Yes.
He won a decisive victory on a day that the doctors had sutured a loose tendon back into the skin. His ankle began to bleed, soaking the sock. But he still pitched 7 innings through pain and blood. Of course, Curt Schilling, his record 12-2, second to none in playoff history in Major League Baseball. He's the greatest postseason pitcher in Major League Baseball history.
Yeah.
Now, here's what ESPN has done. They're going to replay 4 Days in October. After another live event that they're having, they actually edited out. Are you ready? They edited out the entire involving Curt Schilling. The most pivotal point in that series, the most visual point, the one that is Red Sox lore, Red Sox legend now, Major League Baseball legend. ESPN has edited that sequence, all 16 minutes of that involving that game and Curt Schilling out of the documentary.
Yes.
Sean, your reaction?
Absolutely disgraceful. They're doing a target assassination, trying to erase history of a man who had one of the biggest games ever pitched as far as playoff for the Red Sox. And I say for the Red Sox because I'm not going to say it was the biggest game ever pitched. You're talking about a man who had literally trainer table surgery 6 hours before the game, and he came out, pitched 7 strong. And when I say strong, it was the most vintage Curt Schilling that you had seen in probably 2 years. He was pounding the strike zone with fastballs. His breaking balls were hitting the edge, and he's always a competitor. Curt Schilling was always a competitor. Even when he had his worst stuff, he was a competitor. But he had that look in his eye when he went out there, and it really was just astounding. It was a game that even Major League Baseball itself still says, one of the most intriguing games to watch as a fan, and I would agree. I don't care if you're a Red Sox fan or not. It summed up who he was as a competitor when he was on the field, and just the grit that he maintains as a person. You had Curt Schilling come out a week and a half ago, post an anti-transgender bathroom statement on Facebook. ESPN not only fires him, which, by the way, if you listen to Sunday Night Baseball now, there's like 3 people that anchor it, and one of them is a female that nobody knows who the hell she was, but all of a sudden she's a baseball commentator.
Right.
A color person, which I think was just strange. But they erase him from that. They say nothing about it publicly for the most part, other than he's no longer with the organization due to a Facebook statement. They can't even stay up and be like, hey, you know what? Our politics are different, and we won't tolerate that in our sort of business. And if you are at all a conservative and believe that, you need not apply. At least have the stones to say it. But they dump Kurt.
Exactly.
And then on the 30 for 30 segment, 4 days in October, like you said, 16 minutes of that segment, 1 hour show, was dedicated to the Bloody Sock game, Game 6. For sports fans and Red Sox fans, and anyone who's really a fan of baseball, it was a historical part of the game. Now, mind you, the Red Sox won that game and then won the next game, and because of Curt Schilling's performance in that game, they were able to move on and eventually win the World Series. Everyone forgets that after the series in New York, they actually played the Cardinals and swept them 4-0. But everyone still thinks that was for somehow the World Series was magically between 2 American League teams that year. And it kind of was. And ESPN has no respect for the personal beliefs of its employees. You either swallow the poison or the Kool-Aid, depending on which way you want to look at it, rank and file march, and shut your mouth, or they're going to fire you. Look at what they did to Stephen A. Smith.
Exactly.
Everyone forgets Stephen A. Smith, and I don't necessarily agree with everything that comes out of his mouth, but he is a very outspoken man. And he said a lot of things that are controversial, especially when it comes to race relations in this country, et cetera, et cetera. And much like Shaquille O'Neal, going against the grain of what is common and popular in mass media right now, and called a lot of people out on their BS. And they did the same thing. Stephen A. Smith used to co-host shows, and now he's at best a 3 to 4 minute color commentator here and there. They attack who they disagree with personally and destroy their careers. Not that Curt Schilling needs the money, per se, but the simple fact of the matter is he was a pretty decent commentator.
Yes, he was.
And to have his insight in the game of baseball, just like with a lot of the former athletes who fill that color commentator role, as a sports fan, when you are watching that, it's very insightful to have somebody who has been on that field explaining to you what is going on. And it wasn't a performance issue. And that's the thing that drives me crazy. You know, it's one of those things, in most private sector jobs, if you have somebody who is not playing along with what's going on the team, doesn't matter what it is, you have to do some performance issues. You have to do this, that, and the other thing. Now, it's ESPN can fire whoever they want. And I don't know if it was in his contract that if you say anything that we deem negative, we can let you go at any time. I haven't seen Curt Schilling's contract. But what it says to you is, just like everywhere else in mainstream media, even the sports, I mean, you look at what different the NHL's doing to reach out to everybody to try to get them to show up, but they'll bury everything about concussions that they possibly can. And not even that I care, because I think if you sign up to play the game, that's an unfortunate injury and byproduct, but it's part of the game, and you've known that getting into it. But they're kowtowing to all these different little micro groups to try to save face for reasons I cannot explain, other than to push the agenda of these groups and gain popularity with them. And you're going to hammer a guy like Curt Schilling, who raises money and lends his name to so many beautiful organizations to raise money for veterans. He raises money for sick children. He raises money for the Lou Gehrig Foundation. He does a lot of fundraising. He's a man of God. He's a born-again Christian, I believe. And he uses his wealth and his namesake for wonderful things. But none of that matters if they disagree. If they disagree with you, You can be one of the most generous people on the face of the planet. They're going to cut you the hell out because of that one belief that differs.
And Sean, and I'll go further. And I know we're using a lot of sports analogies tonight to kind of make this point, but these are some great examples that we're not only seeing in sports, but we're seeing all across the spectrum in our society. People being punished for their religious beliefs, for their personal beliefs, their First Amendment rights. You're seeing that on college campuses where they're being censored, not allowed to speak at all.
Yes.
And in this particular case, you have ESPN actually purposely erasing Curt Schilling from Major League Baseball history. And now, and I would even say that Major League Baseball itself is trying to erase Curt Schilling from history. Curt Schilling has the numbers. He retired in 2007. Okay? In 2012, he should have been a first ballot he should have been voted in on the first ballot into the Hall of Fame. He has unprecedented Hall of Fame numbers, an 846 postseason winning percentage.
Yes.
He's a member of the 3,000 strikeout club. He has the highest strikeout to walk ratio of any of the members. He's tied for third with the most 300 strikeout seasons.
Yes.
He pitched for 19 seasons. He had a record of 216 and 146. He won World Series in 93 with the Phillies, 2001 with the Diamondbacks, in 2004, 2007 with the Boston Red Sox. This guy should be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not. And I am of the firm belief that for everything that we were just talking about, for Curt Schilling going out there and being a conservative, being a Republican, being outspoken like he is, trying to, let's face it, he's doing what we're doing, trying to spread the truth, trying to tell the truth about what's really happening in our country, but yet he is being punished for it by Major League Baseball, by the news media, by the sports writers who have refused to vote him into the Hall of Fame, and then, of course, by ESPN being fired and them trying to erase him. And then and then to wrap it up, this is just not with these sports guys. We are seeing it. We have a story now. It finally broke. For a long time we have speculated that Facebook was specifically not so much blocking content, but choosing and picking and how that content was available on their website. Now, once again, Facebook is, like it or not, it's a privately owned website.
Yep.
They can do with it what they want to.
Yep.
But we now know that we had the news report came out yesterday that they purposely prefer content for more liberal websites, such as the New York Times, from Times Magazine, et cetera, over that. They give preference to that type of content over content from conservative websites, more conservative outlets, whether it be my own website, High Plains Pundit, or The Blaze, the Daily Caller, the Washington Examiner, the Washington Times, et cetera. You see their content buried to the bottom of the heap. And what's happening in our society, Sean, is plain and simple. It comes down to the line where they're trying to silence us. They're trying to make, let's face it, they're trying to make the majority of Americans by far still identify with conservative family values.
Yes.
And it is a minority in this country, a very minute minority that is very vocal and very loud, that are trying to silence us and accept the quote-unquote new normal. And that's up to me and you talking about this type of stuff tonight and the rest of our conservative news brethren to spread the word and continue to hammer home and hammer the truth and get the correct information out there, because if we don't, Curt Schilling becomes the devil incarnate.
Yes.
For simply sharing his personal beliefs in what he feels is just and what is right.
Well, and the other thing that I keep pushing too is the argument is that they want equal rights. And
yes.
as you see time go on more and more, you see they don't want equal rights. They want special rights, different rights that makes them different and above everybody else. And that's where I have to draw the line. Equal rights? Absolutely. Special rights? No. We talk about it on the show when you have hate crimes because somebody's a specific nationality or gender or whatever. If you assault that person with knowledge of it, you get charged with a hate crime. Well, why is that why is that any different? Why not just up the basic assault for everybody? Why can't everybody? Well, because we want to persuade people from attack. Well, you're not going to teach morals at that point. Once that person decides that they're going to hurt somebody else based on their race, religion, and or gender something, then that horse is out the barn. What they should have done is when they were children, their parents should have taught them how to have some respect. And even if you disagree with somebody else, it doesn't mean you have the right to attack them either professionally, personally, physically, or otherwise. And that could be ESPN could learn from that right now. Sports Illustrated could learn from that. But specifically ESPN could learn from that with what's going on with Curt Schilling. And like you said, this is the tip of the iceberg. And you know what they did with this? They took one of the most prominent postseason pitchers, a man who is a workhorse, and especially in New York, Philadelphia, and Arizona, who is recognized for what he did in those cities, and they made him the scapegoat. They made him, like you said, the devil in front of everybody, in front of the whole world. They turned around and they said, hey, you know what? Curt Schilling is an evil bigot. So much so that we're going to pull him from the air. We've had some other broadcasters say some batshit crazy things on the air live and maintain their jobs. But in this case, Curt Schilling's done. And anyone else who works for our organization that dares try to step up, you can get in the unemployment line with Curt Schilling. Now, again, Curt Schilling doesn't need the money, but that's not the point. The point is he was hired because they believed he could do a good job. I believe he was doing a good job, and then they attacked him for something that is honestly a spiritual belief. I believe in his mind, and that's when you start getting. Wait a minute, is that an attack on his First Amendment rights, freedom of religion? Because he is a born again Christian, and that goes against his religion. And you have to respect his religion. Hell, we have schools that are mandating that we give prayer time to Muslims. We have job things that if people can't work on Sunday because of spiritual beliefs, you have to give them the day off, et cetera, et cetera. Why can't that be accepted as part of his protection of religious freedoms?
And Sean, I know, at the top of the hour after the break, we're gonna get into Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, and Kasich and all of that.
Who?
Really. Who?
Who are any of these people that you're talking about? I have no idea who they are.
Exactly. Who are any of these folks? But in all seriousness, if people are wanting to know what has led to the rise of Donald Trump, what has led to the rise of Ted Cruz, whether you like them, love them, hate them, or whatever, if you're wanting to know what has led to this and what has led to what we're seeing in our 2016 presidential election, what we have seen transpire in the GOP primary, what we're actually also seeing transpire somewhat in the Democratic primary, which I personally feel is not over. We're seeing new life from Mr. Sanders after his upset victory last night in Indiana. We're also seeing him putting more superdelegates in his pocket. But bottom line is, what has led to the rise of these candidates is people are pissed off. They're sick and tired of the political correctness. They're sick and tired of the political correctness being shoved down their throat. They're sick and tired of having their First Amendment rights challenged, of having their Second Amendment rights challenged. They're taking a stand, and they're saying enough is enough, and that is why you're seeing the non-traditional candidates. And I would even argue even Ted Cruz is a non-traditional candidate. He's unlike any type of presidential candidate you've ever seen before. So is Donald Trump in that same vein. Once again, whether you like him, love him, or whatever, this is what has led to the rise of these candidates. They're talking about the issues that we're talking about because we're sick and tired of all of this, Sean. You and I talk about it. You know, if anybody's ever wanted to know what one of Sean and I's conversations is on the telephone, you're hearing it tonight.
Yes.
We express concern and try to work out come up with solutions. You know, we do this more than we're doing this for more than you know, just wanting to talk ourselves blue in the face. You know, we're trying to make a difference with this. But and that is what, and hopefully we're starting to make that difference and starting to head that direction and letting these radical progressives know that enough is enough. It is time to stand up and take our country back and go back to the very foundation of which this country was founded, to go back to the values of the United States Constitution, to go back to our Judeo-Christian values, to go back to the family, to bring the fathers back into the home, to sit down and have dinner with your children, to bring God back into the home, not to be afraid to talk about God in public without fear of offending somebody. Yeah. Did you ever think we would come to a time in our history when somebody would be offended by hearing the name Jesus Christ in public, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, we have reached that point in our society, not in our own country, but worldwide. And now is the time to make that stand, because if we don't, our children and grandchildren are going to have a very radically different country than what we have, and we've got to make that change. And if Trump is the solution, so be it. It may not be the permanent solution, may not be the solution that we want, but it's certainly better than the alternative of Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, or for God's sake, let Bill Clinton anywhere near the interns again in the White House. Are you kidding me, ladies and gentlemen? I'm thinking even letting Hillary anywhere near the interns at this point. But that's a whole nother conversation we can have.
Well, I mean, that's what you have Huma for. That's what you have Huma for. Well, and
folks, now's the time.
Dan, as you're starting to talk about this and breach into the next segment a little bit, I'm reading down the list of people in the chat room, and I'm almost imagining the looks on each individual one's face as you say different names of different politicians.
Oh, Sean, it was priceless yesterday because, you know, I and I know we got to get to the break, so I'll make this quick. I made the point earlier that I was supporting both Donald Trump and I was supporting Ted Cruz, both of them. I was supporting both. I will support who is the GOP nominee.
Are you saying you're a trans candidate?
Yeah, I'm a trans candidate. But I was getting blasted yesterday because, let's face it, I completely went after Donald Trump yesterday for his absolutely ridiculous remarks about Rafael Cruz aiding and abetting Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, that just deserved to be made fun of, be ridiculed. Of course, I've also done the same thing to Ted Cruz, to Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton. If they say something stupid, I'm going to I'm going to make fun of them, and I'm going to have a heyday with it. But I got attacked. You are a Cruz supporter. Why are you a shrill for Cruz? Da 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 da. And then I go, have you not read a single one of my articles I've been writing since this election process began? That I support both of them. And then I had some articles we published later in the night after the primary that were real negative towards Cruz. Oh, you're a Trump pansies. You're only in this for Trump. You're
a
an
Trumpster
moron. You're leading to the destruction of the country because you support Trump. I'm actually sorry to see Cruz drop out at this point. I thought it was more interesting and brought more value and substance to the campaign. And I don't think, and here after we do the break, which we've run long, we're going to discuss that, ladies and gentlemen, Ted Cruz is not done yet in this presidential campaign.
Yeah, all that and more. And we're going to talk about everything, including somebody who got the message everyone else got months ago. All that and more here on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. If you're listening and you're not in the chat room, shrmedia.com, click live chat. Also follow us on Facebook, Sackheads Radio. We're on Twitter at Sackheads and some more. Back in a minute here with Dan Butcher, the editor-in-chief of High Plains Pundit. Oh, and there's a special guest on the line when we get back. Be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Breaking news. According to the latest report coming out of SHR Media, a merchandise store to support both the Reaver of Common Sense and SHR Media has just been unleashed to the general public. Be forewarned that this site can be contagious and numerous items can be purchased to support the best news programming. Go to Reaver.one website and click on the store link to check out the merchandise.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Times are dark. The people misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation in confusion needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guide. Because truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Cap was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the Reaver of Common Sense show, hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com and highplainsdailynews.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else, so consider this your fair warning.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are back here on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. My guest host this evening is the amazing Dan the Man Butcher from High Plains Pundit. He is not the second best newsman in the business for nothing, folks, and let me tell you that right now. And on the line, do I still have our caller on the line who wants to talk about Curt Schilling's bloody sock?
Yes.
Yes.
For Dominique.
Hi, Dominique.
Thank you. I've been listening to your show for a long time, and I think you are just so darling. What you have done for black people has set them behind many years, and I'm very proud of that. Oh, really? Are you still there?
Unfortunately.
I am just so excited. Is this Sean? Oh, Sean, you are the greatest of all of the guys I hear on the air all day long. And boy, do I listen long on the air all day long for guys.
I bet you do.
My friend, are the best. I just wanted to talk with you about Chrissy Schilling. Chrissy Schilling and I used to go.
Kurt Schilling. Kurt Schilling.
Okay. I don't want you. I don't want this to get too personal.
No, no, that's his name. His name is Kurt Schilling. You're not getting personal.
Okay, you can call him Kurt if you want, but I knew him when he was Chris.
No.
Oh, he had the most darling brown hair. Oh, and well, I'm sorry. Oh, I gave it away. I didn't want to on national air.
I think you're confusing him.
The reason why the sock was bloody was not because of the tendon surgery.
Oh, no.
I want you to know, I was there.
You were an eyewitness. Lustful Dominique, you were an eyewitness. Pray tell, what is your side of the story? Because part of me
is my sister. We now call her. I don't like to be confused with my sister. She was born that way.
Pray tell is your sister. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I've forgiven her.
Oh my God, this hurts. How does this happen on my show? Dominique.
Our guest here, something that people don't know about our guest here. Our guest here identifies as a trans redskin.
Trans foreskin?
We want to praise you and give you the acknowledgement about your courage for doing so.
Yes. It's not easy to do that.
It's not easy coming out of the parking lot for anybody. Trust me. But I just want to say that without giving too much away, the bloody sock had nothing to do with tendon surgery. It happens every 28 days.
Okay.
That's all I want to say. That's all. That's all.
And I want to clear up two things. Dominique, I believe you're thinking about Caitlyn Jenner and not Kurt Schilling. That's for starters. Number two, are you one of the Redskins fans that dresses in one of the dresses and wears the pig nose and the ladies' hats?
I am not that one. I'm the one next to it.
Well, I'm so glad that we were able to square that away. An alleged eyewitness from the Bloody Sock incident back in 2004 in New York. Lustful Dominique.
But Sean?
Yes.
Sean, we have a breaking story that I just realized.
Oh, no.
We now know that the Washington Redskins, and I want to make sure I get this correct from our caller, the Washington Redskins are segregating their fans. Is that true?
No. Listen, there are a lot of people that are so upset about the name Redskin, and so they just put all this stuff out there, and it's all wrong.
It sure is.
Let me just say, we are not segregated by force, although I would love to be.
Go on.
We are segregated by choice. I don't sit with the Dallas Cowboys, and they don't sit with me. Although there are
Now, Dominique, I do have a follow-up question to that statement. If, say you run a bus, and half the
Sean, you are the bestest.
and you were getting on this bus, and let's say the front half of the bus was filled with Cowboys fans. And obviously, because of your choice segregation, does that mean you'd automatically go and sit in the back of the bus?
No. I would rotate between seats.
Oh, yeah, well, that seems to be your thing, huh?
Well, someone has to have a forte.
I'm sorry, did you say foreskin?
Forte is my brother.
Oh, Forte!
Sean, I'd like to recommend a good therapist for our guest here, so they could properly get over this issue they have of being a transgender Redskins fan, and so that they could properly identify as a Dallas Cowboys fan.
I think I need.
We have a
therapy.
few names we can give them and can call.
Yes, we can absolutely. I think a sports therapist would probably help. I think that I'm actually going to need the one who's going to need counseling here after this phone call.
Excuse me, because I don't get a chance to call too often.
No, you don't.
I just want to say this to you. I think every store should have a bathroom as big as the bathrooms on the bus, whatever one we drive, whatever one we ride. One bathroom for all people. We should stand and we should march together.
How did this happen? How did we get to this? We were supposed to be covering the damn election.
One bus, every God, for all people. Social justice, America, gotta break on it.
Listen, Lustful Dominique, I appreciate you calling in and being as open as you are about who you are, and I think that's just special.
You're getting really personal. That statement about being open. What is that, 7-Eleven or something? You want to make a joke?
Sorry. I wasn't trying to make a joke. I was just trying to thank you for being yourself. And listen, we do have a segment we need to get to that's non-gay Redskin related. So if you have anything else you'd like to add, now is the time before we move on. I have another caller calling in here shortly to discuss politics, and it would be rude if I were to cut them off.
Well, I just want to send a shout out to my father henceforth and my mother forevermore.
Jesus.
Thank you for taking the call. And I really enjoy ICRN, your station, the station I listen to all day.
No, yeah. Okay, thanks, Dominique, for that. I don't even know. Secretary Clinton, do you have something to add? Okay. All right, barking like a dog. That's kind of where I'm at with it, too. Oh man.
My gosh.
Oh, boy.
That just became one of the all-time classic segments on Sackheads.
It never ceases to amaze me, Dan. This is why I always get afraid when I open up the phone lines. And it wasn't that Lustful Dominique was a bad guest. It just took us off on a tangent we weren't quite expecting when I saw the number pop up. Oh, man. Now I'm going to...
I'm so glad we're not under FCC regulation.
Oh, man. I'll tell you...
We would be in so much trouble.
I'll tell you what. I was expecting... In a few minutes, only because of the subject... the comments in the chat room... Oh, I want so bad to answer all of the questions you're asking. However, I don't know if I have the stomach for some of them. I think the best. I think the best question was, what was that? And I think that kind of summed it right up.
Yes.
Positional player questions. Lustful Dominique rules. It goes on and on. So I appreciate I appreciate Lustful Dominique coming on and being so open. Was there something that happened politically, Dan? Rescue us, please, damn it.
Oh my gosh, Sean, I am so lost now. And on top of everything else, I got kicked out of the chat room, so I apologize, everyone.
No!
Okay, you know what? I want to. I want to come back. I want to change the tone just for a minute, and I want to acknowledge someone. The oldest U.S. World War II veteran passed away at the age of 110. A lot of you may be familiar with this gentleman. He was also the oldest living man currently in the United States, and that was Frank Livingston, who passed away Tuesday afternoon in Shreveport, Louisiana. He was born in 1905 in North Carolina and was one of 7 children. He grew up in northern Louisiana, enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1942, served as a private during a campaign in Italy from 1943 to early 1944, and was honorably discharged in 1945. A lot of you might remember he recently visited the White House in 2015. So he was an amazing, amazing man. So we want to acknowledge the passing of Frank Livingston.
Yes.
Now moving forward, Donald Trump today.
Can I just say something about Mr. Livingston?
Let's face it, completely destroyed Ted Cruz last
Hold
night
on,
in the
Dan.
primary.
Dan,
Yes.
I just want to chime in for Mr. Livingston one moment, please. If
Yes,
I
go
could.
ahead.
And only because I feel this needs to be said. It saddens me. My grandfathers were both, and grandparents were both part of the Greatest Generation. And the numbers of World War II veterans and the Greatest Generation members, if you will, who are left is starting to dwindle greatly. And, that's something that I want to make sure that people are teaching the younger generations. And I know there's a lot to teach these kids, and we've lost our way in what we're teaching the last couple of years. But the courage and the strength of not just those who served, don't get me wrong, the veterans that served in World War II are bar none, far and away, but also the folks back home who stepped in and, you had Rosie the Riveters and all the female military members who shuttled planes back and forth across the country for service and deployment, ladies auxiliaries, the nurses that were in World War II, as well as just the average person here who, war bonds and cutting back on usage of electricity and everything else they could to save for the war effort. Mr. Livingston was part of that generation, and it's really, really sad to see him pass, but it's also a good way to bring up reminders about why that generation is so important to our country and how amazing they were.
Well, and stop and think about Mr. Livingston. When we look at, we look at our generation and our younger generations today, our 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, about how they're arguing for safe spaces from college universities. How you mention the name, you write the name Donald Trump on a sidewalk in chalk. They become traumatized.
Yes.
You're talking about, we had 18, 19, 20-year-olds going to the battlefront to defend our country, enlisting. Mr. Livingston was 38 years old when he enlisted in the Army to defend our country. He was also a black man in the 1940s that enlisted in the military to fight and defend our country. In that Greatest Generation. So that even makes him all the more remarkable in all of that generation for what they did. And unfortunately, it's being lost. What these people fought for, what they stood for, how important that was for not just the freedom of our country, but the freedom of the world. As to why America became the leader of the free world, like it or not, that is the role that we relished, even starting with World War I, moving into World War II, and after that. But and that goes to stress, what we have seen in the last 8 years with the absolute nonsense of being offended at every little thing, needing your safe space. You look at me cross-eyed, you're harassing me, that type of stuff. versus what this generation did. The United States being withdrawn from the world stage as the world leader of freedom by Barack Obama and the progressives, that's made the world a more dangerous place. Very unsecure place. That's led to the direct rise of the Islamic State. It's led to the direct rise of Vladimir Putin, who has grand illusions of bringing together the old Soviet Union and even making it more powerful and bigger than it was in its heyday. That has led to this, a direct result that the current leadership and the current generations have not learned those lessons that we learned from World War I, World War II. And, Sean, we are just to blame. And the reason that we are to blame is because we have allowed this new generation and these leaders to forget about the sacrifices that were made by these folks. They have forgotten why we were the leadership and the bastion of freedom, that shining light on a hill, the lighthouse that everybody looked, that freedom, a freedom lighthouse. And it's our fault, Sean. It's
I agree.
Fault, your fault, that we've got to get out there and better educate these folks. Because,
and it's part of the reason why.
If we don't, yeah.
I agree. It's part of the reasons why our leaders failing us is kind of why our election and our politics are who they are right now. And this is probably a good way to segue into that and understand why the country is currently voting the way it is and why some people are so bitter and angry with leadership, both elected and party, which are two different things. And I want to welcome the exceptional conservative Ken McClinton to the line, and hopefully he can add some insight on this. And we're going to burn off the last break at the bottom of the hour because I know we're going to get hot and heavy into this subject, and I don't want anything to screw that up. So, Ken, thank you for joining us.
I just want to say this. I remember calling in first.
I
don't know how you picked up that person.
I know. I understand. And I want to apologize. However, under the new law, I'm forced to take transgender calls first, I believe. So I just...
Sean, at first I thought he was referring to the fact that you took my call first before his and brought me on the show before him.
Well,
because I'm a white man. So that might be what he's alluding to. Because, Sean, you do have a history of that on this show.
As I've been told. As I have been told.
In Clint's absence, I want to make sure we keep you in check.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, Ken, I do want to take a minute to recognize something that happened in your life that is so important to you, if I may, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
The Newhouse School established the Sharnice Milton Award for Excellence in Community Journalism in memory of your beautiful daughter, Sharnice. And I read all the articles and I looked at all your posts. How amazing is that for you and your beautiful wife, who we love dearly?
Thank you, Sean and Dan, for all of your love. And all of the listeners, I felt your love. I felt your prayers. It's an amazing catalog of work that Sharnice Milton did in virtually just 2 years after leaving Newhouse. And she was recognized for her writings as a community journalist, not for the sake of her being murdered, but it brought attention to the fact that her case has gone unsolved to date. My wife and I, we were excited for Ashley McBride, the young woman who received the honor.
Yes.
But we were exceptionally acceptable of just the overall family spirit at Newhouse, the professors that we had lunch with who told us exactly what seat she sat in and how impactful she was in the classroom and how she never wasted a moment at Newhouse. Every moment was a moment to get better. And my daughter and I agreed that I would never admit that she was my daughter because in Washington, D.C., to admit that she was my daughter would preclude her from having career opportunities.
Yes.
And, yeah, because we were both conservatives, but in this liberal media place, there is a certain prejudice and bias. She started working at Community Capital News just a year and a half after leaving Newhouse with her master's degree. And she did an amazing catalog of work. The great thing is that even in her death, she was coming home from covering a story on Capitol Hill. And she was killed between, I have now learned that there were 3 gangs that were involved, and one opposing gang member picked her to shield himself from the bullet that was intended for him. And I say that to give merely perception of how important it was to the Syracuse family to remember her. Dean Branham, we love you, we thank you. Eileen Gallagher, we love you and we thank you. And to all of the staff and professors, just your embrace yesterday was more than we could have reckoned with. With everything that we've experienced, especially over the past 2 weeks here in Washington, with advocates and with politicians who have said some very mean things. It was a great gift from God to have that honor bestowed upon her, and that it would be continuum eternally, so that people will be mindful of not only the story of her as a great writer over a year and a half of work, but being a great daughter who was smitten by 2 cowards on a Wednesday night.
I can't add anything intelligent other than, as always, our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. And Sharnice brought so much good to this world, and obviously those involved and responsible need to be brought to justice. And that's something that you have taken on the forefront with Open Heart, Closed Case, and just in your daily work and who you've become this champion of those who don't have a voice, and not just in the D.C. area, but throughout the country, of trying to give those who were taken a voice and trying to solve these crimes to bring their families closure and bring closures to the victims themselves. And I applaud you for it. We all do. We all think you guys are just absolutely beautiful and amazing people. What you've been able to do and make such a positive out of something that would have destroyed many families, and it's made you guys just closer and more unbelievable than you were when I've met you 4 years ago, and I always thought you were an unbelievable human being, and it makes it that much better. And it is an honor and a privilege to know you, and you have our love and support however we can.
Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate that.
Now,
and Dan, thank you as well for your support and making this an international story. And hopefully in the coming weeks, there will be an international story about Shanice Milton that will probably rock D.C. So I just love you all. I really do.
And we love you too, buddy.
I want to add this, I think a lot of people, it's going to be something really special is going to happen next week when Ken and Sean and I get together, because it's, what can you say? We have become family. We're friends. We're family. And everything that we do, and people don't realize that, we come on the air and we cut up a lot. We bring you news and information, but, off the air, we communicate and we share our personal lives with each other. Sean and I are, it's almost like we're brothers, Sean and I and Ken, because we communicate, off privately. with our personal lives. And, Sean knows, almost every little thing that happens in my life. We share that, and Sean shares that, and then here Ken not only shares this with us, who we consider our brother, our family, and we love Ken, we love his family, we love his wife. But here is Ken. He even goes that step further, and I've shared personal stuff in hopes that it would make a difference. Sean has too, but not on the same level that what Ken has done. Ken is now taking up a cause, taking up a fight that is very, very important. And I just want Ken to know, we're behind you 100%, brother, and we will be there. And we will be there with you, and we're going to make sure that Charnice's murderers are brought to justice. We're going to make sure that the murderers of all of these other code cases, as many as we possibly can, we cannot rest until all of these cases are solved and these people are brought to justice. And certainly with this honor, with this scholarship, that's just another way that Charnice will be remembered. And Ken, bless you. And like I said, we're behind you 100%, and we will be to the end, man.
Thank you so much. But I just want to clarify something, because I understand what you mean when we say the word family. When Sean says it, am I a member of Sean's family?
And with that being said, let's get on to the GOP.
Can I come inside now with Sean and stop sleeping on the porch? Am I
yes.
part of the family?
You know what? On Wednesday night, you will learn. A week from tonight, you will know. Absolutely amazing. I love it. I absolutely love it.
I am so glad that Mrs. Butcher's coming along to chaperone, because Lord.
Oh, can you imagine if we went? Can you imagine if we went unchaperoned? Oh, we'd never make the convention. It would just be
exactly.
It'd be pandemonium.
Oh man!
All right. Well, let's get into the election here. Last 30 minutes or so. What I expected to waste about an hour on this segment, and we got it down to 30 minutes. Congratulations to us.
Good.
Yes, nailed it. Senator Ted Cruz drops from the race last night after losing in Indiana. Pretty substantial loss, too. Immediate reaction, I think, was shock and awe through many in the media and GOP. I honestly thought he would hold on to the convention. I know there was talks that the campaign wasn't, money financially wasn't as sound off as they had hoped to be, and it really kind of sent a shock to the election. Dan, your reaction first.
I'm going to say that the deal maker is starting to make the deals. I think it's no coincidence that Ted Cruz announced that he was dropping out last night. I think it is no coincidence that somebody finally told Kasich that he had no chance of winning, and so he announced that he was dropping out today. Now, tonight on Bill O'Reilly's show, Donald Trump was on the show, and number one, earlier in the day, he announced that he was more than open to vetting, guess who, for vice president? John Kasich.
Yep.
And then he goes on tonight on Bill O'Reilly's show and and during the interview, basically says, hey, I like Ted. I hold no grudges against him, blah, 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 blah. And I would entertain him as a possible vice presidential candidate. I think the deals are starting to be made as far as who the running mates are going to be, the cabinet positions. All that needs to be in place now that Trump is going to be the nominee moving forward. I made this analogy. I had this conversation today, and I'll make this short so that we can get you guys in, because I'll take up the rest of the show if I keep talking. But I'll make this short. I made this analogy today. I think there is still a very strong possibility that Cruz and Trump are on the ticket. And the reason being is everybody has to remember that during the primary season leading up to the 1960 presidential election, John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson were bitter enemies. That was a very bitter Democratic primary. It was more bitter than what you saw between Trump and Cruz and all the other Republicans leading
Rubio.
up. What you saw with Rubio, et cetera, what you saw between LBJ, there was a general dislike and hate between those two. But Kennedy knew that he could not win the presidency without Lyndon B. Johnson. And so I think Donald Trump has come to the realization that he needs to have all of these things in place. And I will say this: I even if we move forward, and I'm going to give, I had this thought, but I'm going to give the credit to Dave for mentioning it in the chat room. But there's also the possibility that the deal was made that if Trump is elected, Ted Cruz goes to the Supreme Court and is a nominee there. So you're starting to see we knew that, Trump is a deal maker. He likes to surround himself with talented individuals, knowledgeable individuals, and I think we're starting to see that right now with Trump and the deals being made with these guys drumming out moving forward.
Interesting. Go ahead, Ken, please.
No, I love Dan. Dan has brilliant analysis of the scenarios and situations. I believe that right after the announcement by Cruz and Kasich that they were aligning, that he went into work mode at that particular point.
Yes.
Behind the scenes, he had a visit the following day with GOP chairman Reince Priebus.
Yes.
They say that it was just to learn the rules, but no, my man was making some deals. I always thought that Ted Cruz would be the next justice for the Supreme Court. He would be the justice nominee. Number one, because he has a whole lot more experience legally than most others combined. He is considered a scholar, constitutional scholar. His only peer would probably be Senator Mike Lee out of Utah. In terms of that, everyone hates him in the U.S. Senate. They don't want him there. I really think that he would be, if not the vice presidential nominee, because Trump has to turn to the right one way or another, somewhere around the way, and it's not going to be with choosing Kasich against his vice president.
Nope.
He has to give some modicum of respect and reward and tribute for their support. Cruz being vice president candidate would do that, but I don't think they would serve well together. I just don't think they're going to see eye to eye together. So sending him to the Supreme Court might be the best benefit for both parts, Cruz as well as Trump. I really think Trump. I just one last thing. I really think Trump needs someone from the South, like John F. Kennedy needed someone from the South to give him the ticket cover that he needs. And I don't think it's going to be Jeff Sessions, but I do think it's going to be someone from out of Florida or from Texas that will be on that ticket with Donald Trump.
Well, and first, I have to disagree with you about Cruz and Trump working together, because I think they're both a task-oriented person, and I think they could put their personal differences aside in order to come to a pretty good selection. I think they'd balance each other well, too. And I think they both have enough strong enough constitution internally in order to get the job done. That being said, I agree with Ted Cruz would be an outstanding Supreme Court justice. Yeah. And it's hard because I said earlier today on River Common Sense with Jersey Joe, I said, it's hard to see which way he could go, because another couple of years and he could learn from the mistakes that I think he made in this election. I think he made mistakes. I'll be the first one to say it. I think the speech that Cruz gave last night as he was suspending his campaign is the Ted Cruz that many of us who followed his rise know and love. And I do think he's an amazing senator and an amazing person. But I don't think we saw that enough while he was on the campaign trail. And I think there was too much of the advisors telling him how to act and speak versus him just being himself, which is what people enjoy and feel attracted to. And I think that's what hurt him more than everything else. You know, he tried to out-Trump Trump a couple times as far as the argument and the name-calling, and that backfired on him. And he was never really able to get back to who he was, which was the person who gave a completely powerful and amazing speech last night before suspending his campaign. It was filled with patriotism. It was filled with honor and dignity, and he was also very, very humble. And I think if you saw that Ted Cruz this entire time, it would have been a different election. I truly believe that. But what you saw, and I pointed out in an article I wrote today, is you saw a Ted Cruz who may have been cozying up a little bit with the old school GOP to try to get some deals done. He had some GOP advisors who were kind of pointing him in a certain direction, and it showed extremely transparent to a lot of people. And once word got out that there may be a contested convention, that was the beginning of the end, because people were not going to sit there and allow their choice, whether you agree or disagree, to be hijacked just like the Democrats do in their party.
Mm-hmm.
And, and by the way, I don't mention Kasich because I don't think he's worth mentioning. He found out today he dropped out of the race. The rest of us found out 8 months ago.
Yeah, that's the truth.
There was a great picture online with Kasich with his hands up, and he was like, cool, Cruz dropped out of the race. I guess I'm going to be president. Like, that's just how oblivious he is to reality. I know that Kasich was serving a role on one way or the other. And depending on how you want to look at it, it was funny at the beginning. Everyone thought Kasich was a GOP plant to keep people from Trump. And then as time's gone on, everyone's like, well, maybe he was a Trump plant to keep people from the GOP. There's no real, we'll probably never know what the answer was. But the answer or the outcome is we now have the eventual nominee, unless something changes dramatically, in Donald Trump. He's starting to look at VP selections. You said somebody from the South. A lot of names come up. I know Nikki Haley said that she's not at all interested. She released a statement today saying she wasn't interested. Yeah. But you also have to look at some folks who were in the election, Bobby Jindal. I think that's an amazing name to throw. I think that really gets you a lot of places. Really conservative guy from the South. It helps you out quite a bit. So there's, and the other person who's out there is somebody who endorsed Trump very, very early in Sarah Palin. And she may say, we always hear people say, I'll never do that again. I don't care about that. When the right opportunity arises, you're going to do it again. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. The biggest problem, guys, that I think we have right now is you have the never Trump people who are not going to support Donald Trump, that are Republicans. Is there enough independents and or others, and Democrats who are coming over perhaps, to fill that gap? I don't know. I know libertarians are putting out all over the place that registration of the Libertarian Party doubled today. So that's kind of interesting. But
that makes it 4 people.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on, they had 4 candidates this year. And listen, I have no ill will against the libertarians whatsoever. I've been saying for a long time that that's a part of the party that our candidates need to embrace more, and they don't do it. But now you have this never Trump mentality going up against the never Hillary mentality. Gentlemen, you've both watched and been part of politics for a long time. Ken, I want you to go first. What is your prediction, and what do you think Trump would do?
Sean is redeeming himself. Oh, I am so proud of you, Sean.
Yeah,
you must have got that letter from the Discrimination Council.
No, Black came. Hey, Ken, Black came up on my roulette wheel. That's the only thing. Black came up on the roulette wheel.
Oh man, what's the question?
What? Can Donald Trump win the Never Trump people over, and if so, how?
Yes, he's doing it right now. First and foremost, he crushed the conservatives. Just looking at it from the outside, he crushed them. Each and every conservative that came to the fore, he crushed them. He did it with personal attacks. He out-bravadoed Chris Christie. So he knocked off any progressives who would challenge him. He withheld the opportunity for to be bested by Cruz in a debate, one-on-one, and literally has held the media in sway for the entire time of his presidential run. So everybody wants another Reagan. Everybody wants the cult figure. They don't want the substance. And that's what we got out of the Ted Cruz matter tonight. Can he win him over? Yeah, he can. But he's also demonstrating right now his desire to go to the left more so than the right, especially with his comments tonight to the Hill Rag explaining that he is open to a minimum wage hike, which would literally devastate many in the urban communities, teenagers, minorities, because as you'll find, like in Seattle, you can raise the minimum wage up to $100 if you wanted to. It doesn't mean that more people are going to get hired, and it certainly does mean that many people will get fired.
Right. Well, and I didn't hear I read briefly on the interview. I didn't hear what he was talking about as far as, was he raising it like we've had in the past, small percentages just to kind of stay the cost of living? Or was he going for the $15 an hour? And I can't speak intelligently to that. I had not heard it.
Yeah, but it's not his role as a president to raise the minimum wage.
No. I understand that, but I mean, supporting something and instilling something are two different things. And I don't, like I said, I don't agree with it. If he truly is a $15 an hour Seattleite, then yeah, I have a seriously hard time with that. And as I've said before, this is when you need to make sure that even if you don't like Donald Trump, that who you elect to Congress is a outstanding individual that would block something like that.
Amen.
And you know, that's something that you've been focused on for years on your show is the congressional races and how important it is and how big the legislative branch is in our government. And we often forget that. We think they're just a group of people that argue versus they're the ones that put the bills on the desk. And if it's not on his desk, he can't sign it. So you got to focus on that. Dan, your thoughts?
Well, you know, what we're going to see with Trump is that, Gulf made a statement in the chat room earlier, which is something that I've been talking about for a long time. I think Trump is a one-term president. I actually think if Hillary Clinton is elected, she's a one-term president because it's passing the party is going to want to pass it on to that next generation, that next big star within the party. And that's where I think Ted Cruz is quite possibly still in the running. I think Ted Cruz is in the running to be the next Attorney General on top of possibly being on the Supreme Court. People have mentioned Chris Christie, and Chris Christie certainly has been real chummy with Trump, but Trump may have this radical idea of putting Christie on the Supreme Court, heaven forbid. So you kind of see how some of this stuff is starting to work. I still think in the end, though, that that on the Democrat side, you're going to see the next big star in the public on their side as the VP, and I still think it's going to come down to Julian Castro or the current Secretary of Labor, who many on the Democrats, especially the socialist wing, really love there. On the Republican side, Trump. Here's the thing about Trump, and if people thought that he was running as a conservative, they were certainly fooled. He has never said he was running as a conservative. He's never ran from his policies, from what he has been saying, and if you've looked at the policies and his track record, you know pretty well where he's going to stand. He is not a conservative Republican by any means. He is if you want to put it, he could be considered a rhino Republican, Democrat light. But he's certainly better than Hillary or Bernie by any means. So it's the lesser of two evils. I think the Republicans insist on, and I think Trump is smart enough to know that I don't think he needs Kasich on the ticket to carry Ohio. I think Trump can carry Ohio without Kasich.
I agree.
Because the Republicans need Ohio to read, but I think Trump can carry Ohio, no problem. But he does need help carrying the southern states, especially swing states. And despite what Nikki Haley said today, I think if she is seriously vetted and she has the opportunity and knows that Trump's going to be a one-termer, and that she has the let's face it, what's the next glass ceiling to break, guys? And that is to elect the first woman president. And I would certainly like to elect somebody that has somewhat of some competence versus what we had with electing the first African American president.
Mm-hmm.
A self-avowed constitutional scholar that never taught an actual class in his life, never actually wrote a article or published anything for the Harvard Review. Just loved the title.
Bill
Ghost
Clinton
wrote
really
his
sucked.
Book. He didn't even really write his own books. But I think that's that glass ceiling the Republicans would like to break. And the names that I think at the top of the list, Condoleezza Rice would be my top, but I don't think Condoleezza Rice is going to leave her gig at Stanford anytime soon.
I think she's too smart right now.
Yeah, but I still think Nikki Haley is there. She's a sitting governor. She brings that executive experience. Susana Martinez is certainly, who's the governor of New Mexico. There is some issues with her. She's not a conservative Republican, but she would appeal to women voters, certainly balance that ticket out. So you have that to come in play. Some people have mentioned Senator Joni Ernest, who is a war veteran, as possibly being a vice presidential candidate.
Yes.
I think the name at the top of the list right now is Marsha Blackburn on the Republican side to be the vice presidential candidate. Kind of that unknown. But behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff on Capitol Hill. Her congressional record, is kind of shaky, but it's still solid compared to her peers. So that is somebody that could come into play. Look at somebody mentioned Sarah Palin earlier. I think Sarah Palin is going to be part of a Trump administration, but I think she's either going to be an economic advisor or she would be perfect, for Secretary of Energy or something like that, which is a role that she actually held in the state of Alaska prior to becoming governor.
Yeah.
So you can see how this is all starting to play out. Trump's starting to put the pieces in play. There was a reason that Reese Priebus came out 5 minutes, well, not even 5 minutes, 5 seconds.
He is our candidate.
He is our candidate.
8 minutes earlier, he wouldn't have taken a leak on Trump if he was on fire.
Yeah, exactly. And he didn't just come out and say he's our candidate. It was forceful. You heard that. You heard that thump on. He is our candidate moving forward. That's because he knew that the deals had been made for Cruz to back out and accept some type of role. The same thing for Kasich. And we'll start to see that play out here in the I don't even think over the next few weeks. I think we're going to start to see all this playing out over the next few days, guys.
I think I said in talking to you and Joe last night on the special we did, and I wrote in my article. I thought I wrote in my article today. It's going to be quick. It's going to be fast. He's going to get some affairs in order quick, so he can start while the Dems are still ripping themselves apart, he can start rebuilding a little bit with the party and trying to get some support where he may lack it. And the Never Trump people, I saw an article today from I forget who it was from, but he essentially said, "Hey, just because you're not voting for Trump doesn't mean you're a vote against Hillary," which is something that I said pretty much outright in my article. Is if you don't vote for Trump and you're a registered Republican, then you're kind of voting for Hillary, and maybe not giving her a tick in the populist vote, but what you're doing is giving her that much more distance to close and or overcome, depending on how it lines up. And we have 3 Supreme Court nominations that could last 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, that we need to consider. And do you really want to hear the words, "Ladies and gentlemen, President Hillary Rodham Clinton and first husband, William Jefferson Clinton"? Think about those words for a second. Let those words sink into your head before you make your decision. I think it's huge.
So first husband wouldn't be Umi Abedini?
Yeah, no, that would be the first chick. Yeah, that's the first side boo. Is it called a side boo, side chick, whatever they call it?
Guys, I told somebody today, moving forward, if Hillary becomes the nominee, stop and think about that. Anthony Weiner is married to her top advisor.
Weiner!
I have got the Bubba Weiner jokes lined up and ready to go. And if you do not think that Donald Trump will be making Bubba Weiner jokes,
I hope so.
Fooled.
I hope so.
He
Only
will.
at this point, I'm in it for I am absolutely in it for the hilarity at this point as well.
Yeah.
And hey, listen, guys, we're losing Biden for the jokes, but if we pick up Trump for the show-wise, anyhow, it could be a good thing. And listen, I will support the nominee, and I've said this time and again. And I think we need to, because we need to keep Hillary Clinton from getting into office. Because, listen, she's the evil we know. We know she's evil. We know she let 4 people die in Benghazi. We have speculations on Donald Trump, and yes, we have some history of him as not elected official. But at the end of the day, I said to somebody today, it's quite possible that in the middle of the night, a year and a half ago, he had a come to Jesus moment. He's not changing who Donald Trump is on the public forefront, but that doesn't mean that in his heart may be different, and it's something that we have to watch for. And I could be wrong, but I mean, I'd much rather give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt than Hillary Clinton. That's all I'm saying. If I was hanging, waiting to be cut down, I'd much rather have Trump standing near me with a knife than Hillary.
Trump, let me throw this out there. For all of you Never Trump people out there that are saying you're going to sit this election out, you're the same folks that set out the election in 2014, and Mitt Romney ended up losing that election.
Yep.
Let me tell you this. If for any reason to elect Donald Trump, if for any reason to elect a Republican, if you're looking for a reason, here's your reason. It is to make sure that justice is brought for the death of the 4 Americans in Benghazi, that justice is brought to all of the wrongdoings, all of the criminal acts that were brought against or were brought against conservative groups, for all of the money that the Clintons have funneled through the Clinton Foundation that has been taken away from people that were supposed to receive that money for charities, and especially in Haiti, where you're talking about tens of millions of dollars that never made it. If you're looking to bring her to justice and you really want to see her indicted and thrown into prison, we have got to put a Republican in the White House.
I agree.
And I guarantee you, if we put a Republican in the White House, and then if you were to put somebody such as Ted Cruz or even Chris Christie as the Attorney General, she would be indicted and she would be brought in front of a court, guys. And that alone is worth electing Donald Trump or a Republican as the next president of the United States.
I wholeheartedly agree. Gentlemen, we are out of time. the exceptional one, Ken McClinton. Sir, thank you so much for calling and
Thank
joining
you.
us for this segment. I want to throw out a special thank you to Lusty Dominique, who called in earlier to give us her insight. It was an unexpected but very appreciated call. Dan, the man butcher, sir, I look forward to seeing both you gentlemen next week. Dan, thank you so much for stepping in and joining me on such a last minute. And the work you guys both do is profound, and I appreciate it very much, and the love and support you've given us here. And I look forward to spending a lot of time with you guys next week and really cutting it up in person and making a difference out there. Thank you.
You bet. Looking forward to this, John.
Love you guys.
Hey, Dan. God bless.
You bet. Love you guys.
This is the Sackheads Radio Show. We'll be back next Wednesday where I will be broadcasting from Texas. Clint will be broadcasting from the studio just to make things even more screwed up for the Texas State GOP Convention. Check us out on Facebook, social media. We're all over the place. Twitter at Sackheads. I'm at Edge of Liberty on Twitter. You can also Sackheads Show on Facebook, at Sackheads, Sackheads Radio on Facebook. You can just find us. Now, stick around. The last 5 minutes of the show, I'm running long, but it is going to be the newest conservative bite by the Unpleasant Blind Guy called Now What? And here we go.
Time for an Unpleasant Blind Guy Conservative Bite. I've just had one of the most frightening experiences of my life. Someone just asked me regarding the 2016 election. Now what? Since Ted Cruz dropped out of the race last night, I've been trying to wrap my head around the new political reality in the United States of America, and this is my response. I want to talk to 4 groups. Group 1, Trump supporters. Through a combination of a compliant media and Democrats voting in open primaries, your man won. If you worked hard for Donald Trump, it just paid off. Congratulations. Have your moment. You deserve it. But just remember that if there's anything worse than a sore loser, it's a sore winner. The Cruz supporters and people who supported other candidates that some of you have disparaged through these primaries are the ones you're going to need to get your man over the top in November. Celebrate, but understand that rubbing their noses in it is not going to get you the support that you want. Group 2, the Never Trump people. I'm on record as saying that I am 90% certain that Donald Trump would be bad for this country, in every sense of the word. But I am 100% certain that Hillary Clinton, and whatever her vice presidential choice will be an unqualified disaster for this country. Many of us had to hold our noses in 2008 and 2012, and we're sick of it. I understand that. I feel the same way you do about that. But I'd rather vote for a candidate that has a chance to win and shoot for that 10% probability that he could make a good president. It ain't much, but when it comes to defending the Constitution of the United States, when it comes to defending personal liberty, I'll take 10% over 0% any day. Think about it. Group 3, Cruz supporters who are not Never Trump. My friends, we fought together as samurai of old. For honor, for our country, for our Constitution. In this battle, we epitomized the old Japanese saying that death is a feather and duty is a mountain. I was every bit as proud to stand with you in this struggle as I was to stand with those who ushered in the Reagan Revolution in 1980. Be proud, remain dutiful, and never let anyone make you hang your head in shame. In Group 4, listeners to the Unpleasant Blind Guy. While I will support the nominee of the Republican Party for President of the United States, I will also be watchful of Donald Trump. My feelings about him have not changed from last night when Ted Cruz was running for president to today when Ted Cruz has dropped out. I take nothing back that I've said. I will be monitoring what Donald Trump does and commenting on it honestly in the light of constitutional conservatism. If Donald Trump is who I think he is, the news will not be good. And I will bring that to you fairly and honestly. But if Donald Trump turns out to be a great president, I will be honest enough with you and myself to report on the positives, and if need be, publicly sit down in front of a big steaming plate of humble pie and eat my fill. I owe you nothing less than to be real, as I have always said that I would be. And to all four groups, remember, there is always a fallback plan. Just go to YouTube, to the Unpleasant Blind Guy page, and look for The Way Back. What next? We will shoulder the burden. We will march on. And in the end, the cause of personal liberty will win out. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. This has been an Unpleasant Blind Guy Conservative Fight.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. But for those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack News. Sack News.
Radio.
Sack.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.